Tim ran last year, and just like for Bernie and just like for Kim and for a lot of the other people that have run as progressives, the deck was stacked against him. He was outspent by corporate interests, out-advertised. They even pulled tricks, like I saw the debate you had with Debbie, where they lit you poorly and lit her well and gave her the softball questions and like just those little subtle things. But he didn't give up. He and his cohorts in Florida started Progress for All, and they've been fighting since then. So staying at the crux of these things and staying at it, really keeping it into the fight and continuing to align with the people and what they need rather than the corporate masters, which is what this fight is about. So I want to introduce Tim to you. Thank you so much for coming so far and coming to this place. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. And thank you, California for Progress. And thank you, everyone who's here today. Appreciate it. I tell you, during our campaign, I should say, we had so much support from Southern California. And, you know, this campaign was a people's campaign, how we raised money. We swore we wouldn't take any money from any corporate interests, no PAC money. We stayed by that pledge. And I always knew that the grassroots would step up, and they stepped up. You all stepped up the entire time. I lived out here in California for 8 years. I was teaching at Chapman University in Orange County. And during that time, well, I should say I'm a law professor. I was writing about things that was before the curve, you can say. Critical of NAFTA and the World Trade Organization, critical of the deregulation of Wall Street, Glass-Steagall being taken apart and derivatives being deregulated. And, you know, those were a lot of losing battles at the time. I was speaking with Dave Sonneborn from Orange County about those days. We were reminiscing all the bruises we had back then. And I was part of Occupy Los Angeles. A Teamster buddy, Patrick Kelly, he and I were going to the LA City Hall to try to lobby Mayor Villaraigosa's office. We're trying to he was the head of the National Conference of Mayors at the time. We were trying to get them to come out and support a plan to get the Federal Reserve to steer money into the state infrastructure bank, the California Infrastructure Bank. And we had 3 or 4 meetings at LA City Hall, and we kept getting frustrated. The Morgan Stanley advisors to the mayor there kept getting in the way. You know, they like the status quo. They like to have state and local governments to be dependent on the Wall Street bond markets instead of to rebuild this country the way it was during the New Deal, when we had an infrastructure bank called the Reconstruction Finance Corporation. And one of the times that we left those meetings at LA City Hall, at that point, there was an Occupy encampment outside of LA City Hall. And we started to join that encampment. And I taught a class at the People's Collective University there on the Federal Reserve, reforming the Fed, and Wall Street. And that's still the fight that we're fighting today. You know, so I want to just say a few words about the campaign that we had and the campaign that we're still on. We haven't stopped campaigning in many ways, and Jeremy alluded to that. The race against Wasserman Schultz, of course, it was a David versus a Goliath type of a campaign. And I was a candidate for less than 8 months. About 3 months before the election, we started doing a poll and we called it off. We were down by 60 percentage points, and most of the folks in the district had still not even heard of me. And of course, it was because there was a media blackout. You know, Bernie was up against the media blackout. Progressives all over the country are always up against this media blackout, where the mainstream media doesn't want to give you any attention. And in the last 90 days, we made up an awful lot of ground, and we almost took down the head. Well, she was at that point the disgraced former head of the Democratic National Committee. But, you know, I'll tell you, a week ago, I jumped back in and made a formal announcement that we're running again against Democrats. Thank you. This time, the mainstream media is not ignoring us. This time, the mainstream media is attacking us from the very beginning. And I'll tell you, right after my announcement, a reporter for the Miami Herald, the first question I was asked as a new candidate this time around was, Tim, you ran against Wasserman Schultz last time when she was at her most vulnerable and you couldn't beat her then. How can you beat her now? And I said, I question that premise. The last time we were up against her, she had the support of the President of the United States, the presumed future President of the United States. Everyone thought she was going to be in a Clinton cabinet or the Clinton White House. How is that vulnerable? You know, now people look at her and they see what? They don't see somebody who's heading to a cabinet post. They see the epitome of everything that's been wrong with our party, with the Democratic Party. This is a party that still hasn't learned the lesson. It's awash in corporate cash. It's lost the support of millions of American people. You know, there was just a survey that was reported in the New York Times a couple of weeks ago. And it's astounding that the Democrats have lower ratings than Republicans still, and that more Americans are likely to say that Donald Trump represents their interest in the Democratic Party. They see the Democratic Party as the party of Wall Street. This has got to end. So when I announced, I made the same pledge this time I made last time. We will not take a penny from any corporate interests. We're going to raise the money in small donations online. And the last time around, I'll tell you, folks contribute in all kinds of ways. As far as financially, the donations, 209,000 donations of $17 each, and it added up. And a lot of the donations come in through the Act Blue platform. And at the end of the day, I'd come home, I'd turn on the computer and check out the metrics page and just see how are we doing. And there were days where the map of the United States was lit up with contributions everywhere. And I'll tell you, Southern California was always leading the way in this campaign. Always. And I've been out here just for a couple of days. Everywhere I go, I've got folks coming up and saying, I contributed to your campaign. I did phone banking for your campaign. I was sharing on social media. All of that adds up and it makes a big difference. And I'm asking for your support again. When I made the announcement last week, I also pledged that we're going to raise the money to pay for a recount of the vote no matter what the outcome is. It's not enough to work our asses off and to get through Election Day and then to just accept results when we see widespread suppression of the votes and all kinds of shenanigans in the way the ballots are actually counted. And we have to be committed to working through Election Day and to demanding our elections to have integrity, transparency, and the votes to be verifiable. And that's why I am so proud to be here with Kimberly Ellis today. So proud. When I was first told about Kimberly Ellis's candidacy for chair of the California Democratic Party, I went online to check out her website. And, you know, I'm so used to going to websites of candidates that might list 2 or 3 issues, and they have a couple of sentences for each, and that's it. That wasn't our website when I was running. You know, we had very detailed types of commitments, detailed discussions of the issues on how to reform Wall Street, on Medicare for all, on tuition-free higher education, on the jobs crisis that is still besetting this generation. This is a lost generation right now. We have to make sure that the public sector gets the resources it needs and that this generation has the kinds of job opportunities that have been lacking really since before the financial crisis of 2008. And when I went to Kimberly's website and checked it out, I was so impressed. You know, issue after issue, she had very detailed discussions of the issues, and she had real commitments that she had made. And leading the way was a commitment not to be taking corporate money and to have transparency in our election. So we have a fight on our hands again. Again, it's a David versus Goliath. Goliath isn't looking quite as strong, but I'll tell you, she is still the money person for the Democratic Party. She has been the person who's been collecting the money and spreading it around the country for ages for corporate Democrats. And nothing's going to change in this country as long as she's a member of Congress. So I haven't given up the fight. I hope all of you are here with me for the long haul. I need your support in all kinds of ways. Certainly, I need small donations at timcanova.com. But I need your voice, I need your hands, I need your hearts, and I'm going to be there fighting all the way. Thank you very much.
So, or perhaps to rephrase, what is the value of trying to work within the Democratic Party?
The rephrase of the question is a pretty good one. What is the value of working within the Democratic Party? I had those doubts a lot. I was a lifelong Democrat, and then in 2012, I registered the non-party affiliation. Still voted for Barack Obama in 2012, but I was very disappointed how corporate-dominated the administration had become. And I came out of retirement as an independent, you could say, in 2016 or 2015 to challenge Debbie Wasserman. Now, I look at it that each district, each part of the country is very different. Politics are very different on the ground in Florida's 23rd congressional district than maybe anywhere else in the country. And it's an overwhelmingly blue district. The conventional wisdom has been whoever wins that Democratic primary wins the seat. It made a lot of sense to jump into the primary. I thought at the time, a lot of folks thought I was crazy to do so, but it was a fight that had to be, and still we have to have this fight. You know, the Democratic Party is on the verge of a massive Dem exit if it doesn't reform itself. We all know that. So I'm not here saying, you know, as a matter of principle, I personally would never support a third party. I'm saying that right now my energies are going into trying to reform the party by beating the hell out of the establishment of the party. And this is not obviously a local concern. I'm 3,000 miles away, and I'm here to try to join forces with everyone who is here. And all across the country, you know, I've been reaching out to support candidates who are insurgents, who are challenging incumbent Democrats. And we also hear you can't do it because of party unity. The problem is the party starts looking like a battered spouse, you know, where the progressives get beaten up and exploited, they get lied to, they get cheated, they get stolen elections, and then they're told to just fall into line. You know, you won't find love anywhere else. You can't go to any other party. And, you know, this kind of battered syndrome has to end. And, you know, so I'm not philosophically against people going outside the party, but I'll tell you right now, it's still high time, I think. A lot of folks are waking up. I think it is a time where folks are ready for changes in the Democratic Party. So for now, that's what I'm fighting for myself. Thank you. Giving a shout out for a member of Congress who the establishment has been going after and trying to marginalize. And it's somebody who has shown incredible courage on foreign policy issues. And that is Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard. She has introduced legislation to stop funding terrorists, that the United States and our allies in the Middle East are very complicit in the creation and the funding of ISIS, just as we were in the creation and funding of Al-Qaeda. What the region, the Middle East needs is what this entire planet needs. It needs disarmament. It needs arms control agreements. You know, when I was growing up, the arms control agreements were between the Soviet Union and the United States, and they dealt with nuclear weapons. At this point, we need these kinds of arms control agreements for every kind of weapon system, including conventional weapons. We need conversion programs to help convert military industry from arms production to other civilian peaceful uses. In the past, I think the space program did provide that kind of a hope. And perhaps renewing the space program, rather than privatizing it is one way to go about it. And for that matter, this generation needs a green solar New Deal. That's a way to convert from arms production to peace. So yes, I will work, if elected, I will work tirelessly for that kind of an approach. Thank you.
All right, so I'm getting word Kimberly has an early engagement, so she's only got a few minutes left with us, so I'm going to give her time for some closing remarks. Thank you, Kim.